Welcome to the Arts and Culture Center Ghostlight Conversations. I'm Aiden Flynn. I'm the director of the Arts and Culture Centers. Today we're going to talk a little bit of Come From Away. And a few months ago, last year to be exact, there was some question about can we get Come From Away to Newfoundland and Labrador? And we were successful in getting some concerts across the island for the Come Home year, but now we've got a bigger and better plan for Come From Away. And I've been working with these two folks for the past, months and months in the development of the idea for a brand new version of Come From Away by David Hein and Irene Sankoff here in Gander, Newfoundland, although I'm in St. John's. But my guests today are Jillian Keiley, who's going to be the director, and Michael Rubinoff, who's the producer, the original producer. And thank you both for joining me here today to talk a little Come From Away. How are you both?
Awesome.
Where are we in the world?
I'm in town. I'm in St. John's.
And I wish. Listen, there's no place I'd rather be than in Newfoundland, but I'm a little south. I don't want to. We're recording this in the dead of winter, so I'm going to keep it a bit secret where I am.
Good on you.
I'm sending warm vibes up north.
Thank you. We appreciate that. You know, before we jump into Come From Away, I'd really like to hear a little bit about your lives and what you're working on and how big and full and productive and creative your lives are right now. Jill, do you want to tell us about a couple of things that you've got currently in the cooker?
Yeah, sure. I've got, I'm just about to leave next week. I'm going away for quite a while, actually. I'm working on the production I Forgive You that played at the Arts and Culture Center last summer is touring to Ottawa. We're starting to pick up some touring dates across the country there. And so we open at the National Arts Center this month with a the same production, but with a new choir, because that show had a children's choir in it. And wherever we travel, we pick up a children's choir there, which is really exciting. We get to meet a lot of wonderful children and kids and beautiful singers. And then I ship right from Ottawa, I go right down to Stratford to work on Richard II at the Stratford Festival in a new adaptation by Brad Fraser, which is a kind of disco adaptation of Richard II. It's going to be pretty great.
That sounds pretty cool. Michael, you've got lots of stuff going on. Do you want to give us a small taste?
Sure. I have a number of musicals in development now, so a lot of time spent working on these new shows, but one of the shows is coming to the stage very soon, a new musical called Maggie, which is by Johnny Reed, who I saw on the stage you're on a couple months ago. I know he always loves playing Newfoundland, and I've seen him there a couple of times in St. John's. So he's written a new musical with Matt Murray and Bob Foster, who's involved with the Come From Away we're going to talk about too. And Mary Frances Moore is our director and dramaturg, and that's going to open in the spring in Theatre Aquarius in Hamilton, and then off to the Charlottetown Festival this summer, and then we'll be at the Savoy in Glace Bay, Cape Breton in the fall. So very busy with that, and about to head to New York for a concert with some songs from another new musical that's very active for me called Grow by Colleen Dauncey, Akiva Romer Siegel, and Matt Murray. And those are the things I can talk about. And some other exciting things I can't yet talk about, but it's such a joy to be a part of producing new Canadian musicals.
So I just wanted to bring that up to illustrate how lucky we are to have you both working on this version of Come From Away. So I remember a hotel room in Toronto, and it was pretty hot, and we had basically decided that we were going to lock ourselves in a hotel room for 2 days and figure out how we were going to do this. And I would like to get both of your perspectives on how those 2 days went from the conceptual sort of components of it, and where we started there and where do you feel we are now? So if we can talk just right now about what you feel we're dealing with in terms of the concept of Come From Away in Gander for, in a fully realized version for the first time. Jill, why don't you go first?
Oh, sure. I think, and I can't remember who said it, but we were just, jamming and talking and figuring it out and just, really very early conversations. And somebody said, come from where you are here. And I was like, that's it. That's it. And as soon as we had the we had that catchphrase in our heads, everything made sense. Uh, how to do the set makes sense. How to cast it makes sense. How to interpret the, the text and the jokes and the music and everything. It's all about being here. It's all about the ultimate immersion experience, like the immersive experience of being in, you can go to see the show and the next morning you can go and have your coffee at Tim Hortons, or you can go and if you want to sleep, in the gym, I guess you'd buy your sleeping bag at the Canadian Tire or whatever that, like every place that's in the show, the Shoppers Drug Mart, like if you want to go and buy some deodorant at Shoppers Drug Mart, like you can actually have the actual immersive experience, including the immersive experience of the people of central, Newfoundland, which is just, it's its own brand of awesome. The people out there are so funny and alive and engaged, and it's just, everywhere, I guess, but it is wonderful. It's a really wonderful thing to be able to bring it to life on that stage and offer people that opportunity of being here. So when the audience, I was there, it was one of the most special experiences of my life, actually. I was working in Ottawa and I flew down to see, because I was like, I'm not missing this. I flew to Gander to see when Come From Away finally came to Gander. Well, not finally, it came quite soon, but I had seen it before in San Diego. And I was like, I'm not missing this. And so I came to see it in Gander, and it was it was unbelievable. Like, it was one of the most incredible moments of triumph and embrace that I'd ever witnessed in my life. So I was like, wow, I want to have that feeling all the time. And now we can do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now we can do it. And if I can just jump in, Jill, because you know, I think you two are both so much a part of the beginning of this story, which I want to mention. But Jill, you bring up that memory of the concert, and I purposely sat you beside me because I wanted to experience that with you. And that goes back to how special this is because, I was saying to Aiden, I was looking at the archival of the studio production we had done through the Canadian Music Theatre Project, and I had made a speech at the end, and sort of one of the things I'd said that the dream would be, to bring it to Gander, like to do a production in Gander would be such a dream. And Jill, I feel you've been a part of this from the beginning in terms of being at the workshops and being with you at the concert in Gander. And someone, when I had my first trip after a first workshop to Newfoundland in 2012, the summer of 2012, seeing Oil and Water at the St. John's Arts and Culture Center and being in awe of it. And then I also remember Aiden, David and Irene setting up interviews with you. I would check in with them when they did their research tour on the 10th anniversary and wanting to talk to different people. And, we would check in. And I remember it was really important for them to have that conversation with you and to meet with you and how positive that was. So I think it's incredible, to come together to do this. And when we had that meeting in the summer, it was so exciting. I mean, Come From Away, obviously, it arrived on Broadway in winter of 2017. Yes, 2017. And, like all great musicals, they're reinterpreted, they're renewed in terms of artistic viewpoint. And I think this is the most exciting thing, as the production has had its replica productions around the world, there have been international productions in different languages around the world, and now it gets to come home, and it gets to come home in the hands of Newfoundland artists that I know have been a guide and inspiration to us since we started it. And I every moment of just talking about this, and now it's a reality, and how deep we are into the creative process and the casting process. Every time I think I can't get emotional anymore because this has been so emotional for good reason, I just keep getting so overwhelmed about how special this production is, and that it is coming home in the right hands and with the best people, not only in the world, but they're from Newfoundland. And that's what's so thrilling.
I mean, I had the great pleasure of hanging out with you for weeks this summer too, as we were doing the concert series. And one thing that I thought was amazing, Michael, is that you, like, if you could, you were there, you were still watching all of it, listening to every note. Like, do you still have? Is it possible for you to still have your favorite moments in the show? And are you looking forward to favorite moments in the upcoming version of it? Like, are there things that you think, oh, this is going to work really well in Gander when we do it?
I think, yeah. I mean, I think the brilliant thing is, David and Irene have written such a great piece. It is really extraordinary how they took, I like to say 16,000 stories that are reflected on that stage from, those that were in Gander and the surrounding communities and that come from a ways that came into, so about 9,000 in town and surrounding towns, about 7,000 that sort of dropped in. It's so well written. And when an actor, every actor that has touched the material and every geographic location it plays in, it really is a bit different. The other thing about a brilliant show is, can it be timeless? And yes, this is time-stamped, obviously, September 11th and the days following of 2001, but I can't tell you how much it affects you depending on what happens in the world, politically, socially, how the show changed and had a different meaning coming out of the pandemic, and how the story resonated in a different way. So I think all of that now coming home to Gander, I'm always reminded, one of my favorite lines that Claude says, on the northeast tip of North America, there's an airport. Next to it is a town called Gander. I really well up on that because it reminds me this is about real people. Yes, it is a musical, but this is about real people. So to be in the community that was at the forefront of it, to bring this home, for them to share in it and to be, as Jill said, immersed in it. It is. I keep thinking about our opening night, and I'm going to need a lot of Kleenex.
Jill, like, through your career, both here, but maybe even more particularly when you've worked away, in all parts of the world where you've worked away, you've always seemed to have been able to bring something about your experience as a person from Newfoundland and Labrador to all your work in some way. I mean, some of them it's, like from running the goat in, Stratford to, probably some smaller inflections that you put into shows. So, what is it going to be like for you to direct this show in Gander with that experience of always being so wonderfully aware of where you're from, and how is that going to be reflected in your production coming up? And I think you're muted.
I just said something so smart. One of the great delights of doing the show here, home, is that I don't need to translate that. I think that's not something that I have to really carry in my pocket. I can just be, I remember, just referencing that show at Stratford, which was a great delight to do. And, when we did Tartuffe, Andy Jones' Tartuffe at the National Arts Centre, for example, where we really lifted Newfoundland culture and put it on stage with people who needed a translator. And they were delightful. People can get the accent. It takes work, but they can get it. But there's something going to be really lovely about just not having that step in this version. I think we can just go right to the story because it's naturally going to be held. And I just think that's something that I'm going to revel in a bit, is celebrating Oz and Beulah and all those great characters that were created by David and Irene, and not having the these guys, it's as they say to me, it's an airport, not an outport. Just trying to explain what Gander is to people, but there's a lot of people now in the show who actually know what Gander is, who've been in Gander, who've swam in the Gander hotel pool, like know what that is. And that's you know, who've been to Dustabellas. Like there's people who know what Gander is. And I think that's just going to be a great little shortcut. And it's gonna create all kinds of new uh, bit of frisson, as they say, a new bit of spark in the show that's going to be a different take, I think, on it, because we just are going to skip that step of what it is to be a Newfoundlander, because all Newfoundlanders are Newfoundlanders.
Yeah. And Jill, for you too, like, what do you think is the, you know, just to get into the specifics of the show itself too, let's just talk a little bit, like, maybe about music. And because Newfoundlanders are such, you know, wonderful fans of music, and certainly to hear their own music, I'm just wondering, like, what your thoughts about approach and working with the music of the show as well.
Yeah, well, David did a great job working on you know, he really had a great ear for David Hine, who, you know, I think he did most of I guess they all did it together, David and Irene together. I don't know how that actually worked. Michael, you'll have to guide me in that. But I knew that David had been a huge Great Big Sea fan and a Great Big Connemara fan and a fan of all the old, the Irish Descendants and all that crowd. And so he had been this huge fan of that, so he was really immersed in that material. And then the music that they brought it's really good, like it's really solid. I know that Bob Hallett worked with them, and of course Bob Foster now, who's working with us, is being a translator back for us. He's the music supervisor, so he's coming from the Toronto production. And Bob worked on Telltale Harbor. He's really quite immersed in how to do Newfoundland music for musicals that has a great, thick, gorgeous musical sound, but also keeps the soul and the spirit of Newfoundland music alive. So I think it's really well orchestrated. Like, it's beautifully done, I have to say. I don't know, Michael, you'll have to tell me the name of the original orchestrator, but they did a
Yeah,
great.
they did a beautiful job. You know, the orchestrations by August Eric Smoen and music supervisor Ian Eisendrath, who the original production, yes, who did just exquisite work. And I think, you know, we've had a small number of Newfoundland musicians work on the other productions, but, you know, at this point we haven't made any announcements. But I'm really excited. I think it's safe to say that the majority of the band, if not our entire band, is from Newfoundland or has deep Newfoundland roots. So I think that just adds another level of authenticity to what people are going to hear and see.
Michael, I've also heard this kind of like description of the show. It might have even come from you, that the show, while September 11th is a focus, the show is really about September 12th. And just the script and the story of the show too, and you've seen the arc of that script develop many times, and you've also seen it like resonate in front of, you know, a world full of audiences too. Can you just tell me a little bit about the development of the words that are in Come From Away as well?
Yeah, I mean, this really stemmed from, you know, David and Irene coming out to Gander on the 10th anniversary in 2011, where a lot of people came back and they interviewed everybody and anybody they could talk to. I think, you know, there's lots of good stories about, I'll credit Reg Wright, present CEO of the airport. He said, "Oh, you're writing a musical about making sandwiches. Yeah, good luck with that." You know, and I think Reg has in some way eaten his words a bit. So, you know, that sort of took place. But collecting all those interviews was really key to, you know, what the musical is and the authenticity of the storytelling, that they were real stories. And the really difficult job they had was amalgamating all those stories into a narrative that had to be, you know, under a certain length. So, you know, I think that work, it was just amazing in terms of them listening and hearing and distilling what should be told and what should make it to the stage, because yeah, it is so universal in terms of, a story about kindness. I can't take credit for it, but along the way of the development, as the theater began to play, as the show began to play in different theaters, somebody came up with, this is a 9/12 story, and it is a 9/12 story when everyone came together, when people looked each other in the eye on public transit and said, "Are you okay?" All over the world, yes, this is a story that starts with such tragedy in the United States, absolutely. And one of the markers of the show is that it remembers the people that were taken that day. But it also shares a little something good in humanity that happened on that day and in the ensuing days, on 9/12 and beyond, about people coming together, about kindness, about community love. And that, whether it's sitting in a theater in Australia or the UK or Ireland or in the United States or Canada, that resonates, because you know what? In popular culture, we don't talk about this enough. And David and Irene have said it's never a bad time to tell a story about kindness. And boy, is that true.
It's a wonderful sentiment to come to an end. Before we wrap it up, I would just like to ask you, if now that we're talking about the script, do you have a favorite line from Come From Away, or a favorite lyric from Come From Away? Michael, I'm going to let you go first.
I think it goes back, as I said earlier, having seen it, I never counted how many times I've seen it, but it has to be like over 1,000. It's that line that Claude says, in the northeast tip of North America, there's an airport next to a town called Gander, because whenever I hear that line, I see the community. I just look and I think about being in Gander, being in Appleton, being, at the Dover Fault, being in those communities. I just see those people, like in a flash, those faces come up, those hugs come up, those, interactions. I just feel so privileged to know so many of these extraordinary people that have really become family. So that line, I have never not welled up hearing that line, because I just see that warmth and love of community, pop up in my head at that moment.
Well, boy, for good or bad, I think that you're one of us now. So yeah,
I have been screeched.
Yep. Jill, do you have a favorite line, lyric?
I have two. It's funny. I have two, and one of them I actually can't say because I can't say it without crying, and I actually can't even say this one without crying, but I'll try it. Be afraid for nothing. I can't even, and I can't. The line that Bob says at the end, I can't.
Yeah.
Even when he's talking to his dad, I can't. I'm the clown. I can't even say line. So I won't say line. but I thought I'd get the first one out without crying, but I can't.
Well, it's a hard way to go out. It'd send you out in tears, but we got to go, and I can't wait for the show. And I can't wait for Jill to get herself back together here. And I really thank you both for not only for your time today, for all the time that you have put in, and for all the time to come. And I got to tell you, it's been nothing but a blast so far, and I'm just looking forward to all of it going forward too.
Thanks, Aiden.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Aiden.
Thanks, you both. All right. That's our Ghost Light Conversations for today. Come From Away tickets are available at artsandculturecenter.com. Go there now and buy many.